All right. Congratulations, you made it down to the summary. So all I really want to do again is just kind of summarize what you've gone through through this course, and just kind of highlight again, some tips and some tricks and some things to, make sure that you need to remember when looking, when solving a quadratic when a is equal to 1. So remember, a lot of times, if you have an equation y equals x squared plus, bx plus c. Remember, the main important thing is we want to make sure it's in that form, right? Sometimes you might see equations that are in different forms. You always want to make sure it's in descending order, where your quadratic term is listed first, and then your linear term, and then your constant at the end. And remember, whenever we're solving, like when we want to factor something like this by using our trinomial, we got to make sure it's set equal to 0 so we can apply that zero product property. And we went through a lot of the tips and tricks you can look into as far as using a box. I preferred this X method, which sometimes I called the diamond method. And the basic thing that you want to be looking into, again, is just taking those factors, C, or not factors, yeah, taking the factors of C and seeing what are the factors, labeling them. The factors give you C, but then are going to add up to give you B. And the nice thing about when a is equal to 1, we know that we can set our factored form as a product of two binomials, because with x being your leading term, because you know that x times x is going to multiply by x squared. And the last thing I really want to summarize with you when doing these types of problems, again, remembering what two numbers multiply to give you c, but then add to give you b. But then also always going back and checking your work, because a lot of students, they'll automatically think, oh, these two numbers, they multiply, but then they don't double check to make sure that they add up to give you your value b. Or sometimes they might look at, oh, the positive values work, but oh no, not the negatives, right? Because remember, when we're looking into factoring, for instance, factoring 15, it's very easy for us to say, oh, 15 and 1 are 5 and 3. But we also need to remember that that also contains the negative values, negative 15, negative 1, negative 5, and negative 3. And then also, what's even more important is, what about if my middle term, or what about if my factor is negative, right? Then we have to go and use those tips and tricks I talked about, where we know that one of these terms has to be negative, and one of the other terms has to be positive. And depending on what your middle term is, you can determine which factor has to be positive and which factor has to be negative based on the value, based on the sign of your middle term. So there's a couple just some summaries to go through, and basically, ladies and gentlemen, once you have it factored, we then apply the zero product property, where we set these both equal to 0. I'll just say we give two values, p and q. P and q, remember, p times q will give us c, and then p plus q gives us our value b. And then what we can do is just set them both equal to 0. And then now we can use our inverse operations to solve for x. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations. I hope you go into some of the essential questions, and as well as some of the challenge problems to continue off finish the course. Thanks.